environmentally conscious. Being a father of a very aware young person helped me learn and discover a new way. I loved Mark Twain's 1890s essay, Taming the Bicycle, and I enjoyed H.G. Wells's comic novel about a bicycle holiday taking place in the English countryside in 1895. I was inspired by Kent Thompson's 1997 book of essays, Getting Out of Town by Book and Bike.
This feature movie, set in Australia, told the story of a man who was camping in the outback and was visited by a stranger from another planet who enlightened the Earthling. We rented it in around the year 2001, and I liked it so much that I bought it when the Movie Village was selling off their stock, and it really inspired me to be an anti-car activist.
I've been thinking about things, you know, all the things you've been saying about the earth and so on. It all makes sense, but you tend to get a bit depressed about it at first. Thinking about how just one person doesn't make any difference at all. What can I do anyway and all that? Then I thought about war. When there's a war on, when their country and their way of life are threatened, people don't hesitate to change their life completely. You know, to risk everything. Their job, their career, their life, their family and friends. Dumped a lot to join in the war. They're ready to risk everything. Which is how it's got to be to win the war. Doesn't make any sense, does it? This is war. This is more than war. But we muck around at the edges of it like we're just playing.
You found me.
What?
You found me.
This is much more serious than any war. We muck around at the edges of it like we're just playing.
Didn't you hear what I said?
I heard what you said. Tell them to go away.
I can't.
I believed, and still wish, that Earth Day should be a real holiday, and started a petition calling for an Earth Day Act to proclaim a day off from capitalism and pollution. After making Letter of the Day in the Sun, I felt pretty good. That spring we signed up with the Trans-Canada Trail Organizing Committee to ride in the official opening, and late in June we participated in the hoopla. In fall 2000 I began cycling down Pembina Highway to a job at the University of Manitoba bookstore. I kept at it right through the winter and have cycled year-round ever since. Riding inspired a column for the student newspaper. That winter, I read Katie Alvord's book, Divorce Your Car, and was able to review it for the Winnipeg Free Press. Continuing to promote the Earth Day petition, we got some press and formed a small coalition.
The Earth Day petition collected a lot of signatures. We had a group of about 6 of us working on it for a while, and we collected 80 pages of 25 signatures per page. Got acknowledgement letters from Premier Gary Doer, Conservation Minister Oscar Laslin, Mayor Glenn Murray, and then Jean Friesen, who was Deputy Premier, agreed to meet with our little collective about the plans for an Earth Day. And finally it was read into the Manitoba Legislature as a private member's statement by MLA Marianne Sorelli in April 2001.
That July I stopped renewing my driver's license, and we biked out to the folk festival with camping gear. We built our own bike trailer and pulled it out to Birds Hill Park in 2002. The Folk Fest had misguidedly removed bike lanes on Festival Drive to give cars more lanes. My partner wrote a formal complaint to the director, and by Sunday the bike lanes were restored. Coming home after was a 5-hour struggle against the horrible, hot, dry south wind. But we made it. And 2 weeks later I cycled out to Patricia Beach for the fun of it. We were now regular participants in monthly critical mass bike rides in the city. My bike is loaded and I'm heading west. In July 2003, I biked and camped my way over 6 days to get to Swift Current, Saskatchewan, where family caught up and we all went to a wedding. My bike trip was wonderful, but it was tough to leave everyone behind. We hosted a young student from Korea in April and May 2004 and enjoyed getting to know Woo-sung. I was pleased to be able to teach him to ride a bike. We had a group ride to Assiniboine Park. Later he wrote a wonderful response for us. That June we participated in an awareness fundraiser ride event for the human rights group No One is Illegal, and I pulled a small float depicting the theme. That summer we started doing radio at CKUW and shared this book on our program.
This lovely children's picture book tells the story of an amazing Swedish grandfather who at the age of 66 cycled a long distance race and proved that old people still have it. Anyway, it was a wonderful and inspiring story, and I'd love to emulate the Super Grandpa. True story.
That September long weekend we biked down the gravel roads of the Trans-Canada Trail to meet friends camping in St. Malo. In late December we biked out to Landmark for a big family Christmas dinner party, stopping to warm up and have a pizza in Ile-des-Chênes. We biked out to Argyle and took the Prime Meridian Trail north, camping trailside before we got to the Narcisse Snake Pits. Then we cycled north to Poplarfield and east, camping at an abandoned farm before making it to the lake and Gimli. That summer, down at the Fringe Fest, I met this incredible cross-country biker. Such an inspiration. We had been to Harvest Moon by car, but in 2005 we led a group ride out to Clearwater for the festival. I went to a punk house for a zine launch party and learned about the Chain Break Gang's epic ride to Mexico. May Day 2006. Happy to be walking with comrades. Then came time for another critical mass ride through the city centre, but Winnipeg police were having none of it and brutally cracked down. An awful experience for many, resulting in much press and a trial. We obey all the traffic laws and signs. Will you step on my head? Will you step on my head? Will you step on my head? Will you toss me into that paddy wagon and leave me there for dead? Will you step on my head? Will you step on my head? When I ride my bike. That September, I was happy to try out Natural Cycle's delivery trike during Car Free Day on Albert Street. Some good folks put out this informative zine, and critical mass continued. But we adapted too. With friends, I led a few pub crawls by bike, and they were joyous rides. But in late summer 2007, I began planning for Car Free Day. I was hosting children's radio on Saturday mornings and invited cyclists, including families, to meet at the University of Winnipeg that September 22nd, and we rode en masse to Confusion Corner. Members of the Flaming Trolleys marching band met our ride, and together we took over a car sales lot on Pembina Highway. We had fun with good music, but the poor worker did not quite repent of his car love, but rather turned to that tired old rant, "Get jobs, you lazy bums." Our band played on and led us in a march back to Crazy Corner for a party in a parking lot. The Organza health food store gave us shade and refreshments, and we unwound from the tensions of fighting car culture, and some of us left our messages for car parkers to ponder. Soon it was time to continue the ride back uptown. There were fewer of us, but we had our message, and I was bringing the goal nets for street hockey on Albert. Other folks had organized the block party in front of the A-Zone at 91 Albert, and it was awesome, including a Smash the Car piñata, bike polo, mini bike fun, and even tall bike rides. And there was jousting, good crazy fun for the brave and foolhardy. Car-free fun. Later that fall, I attended a huge organizing event hosted by a new group in town called Bike to the Future. During the winter, I sometimes make collages of materials from cycling experiences and from anti-car events. There was a fine group making music around the scene. Tandem was two women who were hardcore cyclists. Our newspaper recognized the style inherent in retro riding. And a news article featured yours truly as poster boy. Classy bike racks began to appear in downtown Winnipeg. And the annual Naked Bike Ride had come to our city. Some good folks created their own biking zine. Punk patches promoted pedaling. A local furniture store owner penned a weekly rant in his ad, and sometimes he too promoted cycling. But not everyone was awake. This letter railed against us winter cyclists. Then summer came, and I celebrated my 7-11 birthday with my favorite bike. And in fall of 2011, a new space opened up for all. It was Earth Day 2012. I pulled my old canoe to the A-Zone and hauled away a load of garbage for Mondragon. Then to Arts Junction for a makeover. We loaded up the canoe and floated out of there with a big message as we biked over to Central Park to join the annual Earth Day parade. A couple of stories in the paper complaining about parking prompted me to write this letter, and as Car Free Day neared again, I was ready to sound off in my own way. Every Sunday evening, car lovers have been gathering to worship vintage and custom autos at Grant Park's Pony Corral restaurant parking lot. I produced this zine, modeled on my experiences and memories of church, as a possible handout to enlighten the car freaks. When I tried to enlist some bike friends to join me in this crusade, one told me, "No, I don't want to get punched out." I still recommend these books and believe that someday more people will realize that the car era is over. Meanwhile, I continued cycling and gleaning and dreaming of critical mass everywhere, even in the country. Promo from the Mothers Against Drunk Driving prompted me to create Mothers Against Driving, or to be more inclusive, a Ma and Pa organization to be called Movement Against Private Automobiles. I loved doing bike deliveries for CKW Fun Drive, for Arts Junction, for a magazine I worked for. It gave me time to think and plan the movement. I used social media to create a base for the movement against private automobiles. June 2013. I decided to join the Art City Parade because the theme was water, and I could pull my new canoe as a float. Time for my annual letter to the editor. We had a tandem bicycle for a while, which is always challenging fun.
A Winnipeg filmmaker named Janine Tashunki recruited me to be in this documentary. I was pretty pleased to get a chance to be part of the making of this film and say my bit about
I really hate cars.
For some people, choosing not to drive has led them to connect with a larger global movement, which is exploring alternatives to private cars.
I remember hearing about Car Free Day quite a few years ago, I guess maybe through reading. There's even a magazine called Car Busters, International Celebration of Anti-Car Culture stuff. I've ridden bicycles beside cars for so many years that I just know how scary and awful it feels and sounds to be in that roar of traffic, but people inside their cars maybe aren't hearing it because they're insulated. But it sounds like death.
When Cinematheque screened this film, I was eager to see how we were faring in the war against cars. Later, I found an old car muffler on a street in my hood and used it in a collage with the movie poster. Early morning, June 8th, I left home and began a 6-day ride to Saskatoon. Here is a clip from the slideshow I created afterwards.
Mount me, pilgrim, and let us be off. The dawn cannot be far behind. What sayest thou, old roadside marker? Ah, less talk, more rock, I fear. Ah, pilgrim, dost thou consider swapping horses at this juncture? A new land, perhaps of milk and honey, awaits beyond this fair sign. Pilgrim, we've come a long way now, and my little light will not be hid under a bushel. Nay, let it shine. 'Tis good to see what can be done with the four-wheeled beastie, and lo, reminds thyself, pilgrim, thou dost love 2 wheels more.
Back home in July, it was time for our bike ride to Birds Hill Park for the Folk Fest. Later in July, I enjoyed this play during the Fringe Festival. Evelyn Perry brought her wonderful production, Spin, to PTE early in 2016.
Spin me like I have already spoken, like a spoke holds its tension. Like it's together that the spokes are the invention of a wheel, that a wheel is only as round as its tension, that a wheel is a round invention. She gets on her bicycle, she gets on her bicycle, she gets on her bicycle, she rides.
In June that year, I biked out to Sanford to join a group canoe voyage on the LaSalle River, paddling downstream to our friend's farm. In 2016, I created this piece using an old poster I had gleaned for Parking Day. And then I heard about the call out for groups to submit ideas for installations in Storefront Manitoba's Design Festival, to be held on Graham Avenue and Edmonton Street September 16th. I had already done a Hunto Library canoe display in the annual Sherbrooke Street Festival, so I proposed a plan for bringing an environmental display to Parking Day. After rehearsing the setup at home in late August, the big, rainy day came to pull my weight. It was the movement against private automobiles' big push forward. I got there in time to secure a good parking spot on Graham, and with my partner, we set up the display for the day. Although it never poured, the weather wasn't great, but we had some interest and shared ideals with passers-by. Bus, bike, canoe, or walk. The best ways to get around in the city. And open your mind with a good book. We even made it onto Instagram. And it was good to see another installation's fresh take on the automobile. I made copies of this message and often hand them to people sitting in parked cars with engines idling.
I grew up loving George Harrison's All Things Must Pass, an amazing compilation of songs. Came out in the early 70s. So in 2017 I made my own version. This is a zine of songs parodying George Harrison songs, but they're all songs that are anti-car and pro-cycling, and added pictures. There's a dozen songs, lyrics in here, and it's a zine that I made.
Copies available on request. My beautiful red bike that summer. In July, I snagged a van ride with bike and camping gear to the International Peace Gardens. From there, I cycled home via Room to Grow Farm and Clearwater, where I camped one night at the Harvest Moon Society school grounds, then on through Manitou and detouring south to go ziplining in Pembina Valley, before riding to Carmen, where I camped in a backyard by the bar, and then the final day riding home to Winnipeg.
So, like that, it's loaded.
A November 20th, 2018 letter to the Free Press. A March 2019 Free Press story on non-drivers included me. That winter, I was pleased to go support students in their Friday climate strikes, and it prompted me to a small action, and I often held this sign on busy streets to remind motorists. In April, I wrote the paper again, this time about gas too cheap and idlers too many. Loading up again, this time in June. Very early on a Sunday morning, I pulled the canoe out of the city, going southwest on my way to Sanford.
I don't know what time it is, but I am reaching the perimeter, pulling my canoe.
At At Sanford, I was joined by others who'd come by cars, and we launched to paddle down LaSalle River to our friend's farm. Later, I paddled solo with cart all the way to Le Barrier Park and then walked the canoe into Winnipeg. When I read this editorial, I was moved to write the Free Press about promoting alternative transportation and safety for all. Something about this news picture in the Winnipeg Free Press made me happy to go out foraging.
The canoe is loaded on the trailer and cart. I'll be pulling it with the bike there all the way down to Lindenwood, so I'm ready to get going now. Gonna go down Waverly. Gonna put in here at this lovely boat launch, and we are floating. I'm just imagining I'm in cottage country here, approaching the first bridge. So, without the trailer and cart, I'll just ride the bike back into the streets to visit Uncle. We have arrived here for a visit and game of Scrabble.
Spring deliveries for CKUW, bringing the swag to all good folks. I was sad to put a trusty old STEED out to pasture, but happy to replace it with this beauty. I was thrilled to be part of the green page in the Free Press in November 2021. I always enjoy W.R.E.N.C.H's column in the Globe and Mail, but this one especially prompted me to write a letter and then go out and get a really fast bike.
She gets on her bicycle, she gets on her bicycle, she gets on her bicycle, she rides. She gets on her bicycle, she gets on her bicycle, she gets on her bicycle, she rides.